Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show where we love Seattle pro sports. I'm your host, Mikey, and we are here to talk about the Seahawks making moves to make the defense elite. That's right. John Schneider has not done anything yet to improve this offensive line, but he and Mike McDonald are taking the approach of making the defense elite and hoping that they can improve the offense enough to get them to be, in competition for the playoffs. That'll be the goal this year, is to see if they can, push ahead of what they did last year and get over that hump and get into the playoffs this year. And they are indeed making those moves. We can quite clearly see, as I said, John Schneider, he has not lost the mindset of always compete. He is making moves to go for it still, to compete still. Alright? Signing Demarcus Lawrence today, defensive end, coming over from the Dallas Cowboys, one of the best defensive end edge players that there has been in the 11 years that he's been in the NFL. Now, last year, he did break his foot and missed. He played in the first 4 games and then missed the rest of the season. But in those 4 games, he had 3 sacks, a forced fumble, he was productive, right? And if you are getting the type of player that Demarcus Lawrence has been in his career, then we are talking about making this defense elite. Because now, again, are talking about having Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Demarcus Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, all in rotation on that defensive line, and potentially Uchenna Nwosu as well. I'm still not guaranteed that's going to happen. We're going to have to wait and see, because again, he's dealt with injuries with this team for the last couple of years, and there's still been no word on what is happening with Uchenna Nwosu. The last thing we heard was that they extended the deadline for his pay so that they could work out a contract instead of having to release him. Haven't heard any news if they're any closer on reaching a new deal. We haven't heard any news if Seattle has just decided to move on. We haven't heard that yet. And I could see that end up being the case now that they signed Demarcus Lawrence, right? They could free up, $8 million in cap space and basically pay for most of what they are signing Demarcus Lawrence for. Because Demarcus Lawrence is getting a 3-year, $42 million contract with $18 million guaranteed. So, typical way that these contracts are structured, it's probably a lower cap hit in year 1. Again, if they do decide to move on from Uchenna Nwosu, that's where you got your money from, and then they still have tens of millions of dollars to spend in free agency. Just waiting to see what they do with those tens of millions of dollars. We do know one of the small moves that they've made. Another small move they made today was signing wide receiver from the New Orleans Saints, Marquez. I always get his name backwards. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I always want to say Scantling Valdes. But anyways, they signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling to a 1-year deal worth up to $5.5 million. So just the wording right there, it doesn't sound like, all $5.5 million is guaranteed. It doesn't matter because for the structure, for the purposes of the cap space, because it's only a 1-year deal, so it's against the cap. The thing that I find very interesting about these signings is that Mike Macdonald is obviously listening to his coaches and willing to collaborate with his coaches and figure out what connections they have throughout the league and what players they say will be good in the systems that they're running, and have background with those players and know what their effort on the field is. They know how hard they work, during practice. They know the type of leadership they have, the kind of character they have. Because both of these signings have connections to Mike Macdonald's staff. Demarcus Lawrence, obviously defensive coordinator. Adam Dirty was the defensive line coach when he was over there with the Dallas Cowboys. Not that Mike Macdonald needed anybody to tell him that Demarcus Lawrence is good, but I'm sure that helps out when we see that type of player becoming available, that Adam Dirty is able to say, yeah, Mike, he's a good player, you've watched him play, but I can attest to the type of work he puts in, throughout the week, the type of leadership he has in the locker room. He's a veteran, so you're gonna like having that in the locker room. Same thing with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Kubiak just worked with him in New Orleans, and Kubiak could probably say, yeah, look, he came in the middle of the season for us, after we had so many other injuries. He came in and put in the work. He fit into my system right away, was productive right away. And again, we're talking about a veteran who's been in the league for, how long has he been in the league for now? Scantling's been in the league for, say, 8 years, and won a couple Super Bowls with the Chiefs. So again, has the experience, knows what it's like to help build, or what it's like to be on a team that has the culture of a Super Bowl winning mentality. So he brings that with him as well. Now we just gotta wait and see what else John Schneider can come up with. I mean, I absolutely love the Demarcus Lawrence signing. Okay, because every single move that they've made on the defensive side of the ball tells me, even as big as the moves were to get rid of DK and Geno, that we are not going into a full rebuild mode. This is just a reset. All right, because you basically replace Geno with a younger version of Geno. So you didn't really make a drastic change there. Obviously the wide receiver, that's a big change. and we're going to see what they do about that. Bringing in Marquez, Valdes-Scantling, that's a start. He's familiar with the system. He'll be a veteran that can help out in that locker room. But I will say that I think they shouldn't be done, whether that's looking at somebody in the draft or they go out and get another veteran, somebody like a Cooper Kupp, who, again, I think will be good in this Kubiak system. You bring him home to Washington State. You bring his leadership, another player who has, been on a Super Bowl winning team and can bring that leadership and veteran knowledge to this team. You can have him passing down his knowledge to JSN and just help him emerge even more into becoming one of the top wide receivers in the league. If they do decide to draft a wide receiver this year, same thing. You're having a Cooper Kupp. You're having a Marquez, Valdes-Scantling. Pass on their knowledge to the younger guy and getting them ready. And that's another thing that I like about the Demarcus Lawrence move as well. Again, veteran, passing on his knowledge to a Boye Mafe, to a Derek Hall. It is a 3-year deal, but again, it is $18 million guaranteed. So what are we looking at? Not much in terms of how much cap space he's gonna be taking up. Which means to me, not only can he help each a Boye Mafe and a Derek Hall how to get to the next level. You saw I took a couple edge players in my preview mock draft. If they go that route as well, even if they just take one, you're having Demarcus Lawrence be a guy that's setting an example for that player. So there's no real downside this, in my opinion. I mean, he had a broken foot last year. I don't think that, I don't think it's going to be something that drastically affects his play coming back now. We are talking about an older player. Maybe he does slow down, but again, I expect he will be productive, and that he will be somebody who sets an example, and the players who are smart and willing to do so will learn from him and only get better. Whether that's Boye Mafe and Derek Hall, and that's they don't bring in another younger guy, or whether they do bring in a younger guy, there'll be multiple people who should be able to take advantage of being around somebody like a Demarcus Lawrence. All right, so here we are sitting at the end of day 3 of free agency, the first official day of free agency where all these deals can become official. And we still have not taken care of the offensive line, but at least we see a path now. We see that there is a plan. We can deduce that there's been a plan the whole time. They moved off of Geno quickly. They moved off of DK quickly. As soon as those situations arose, they were ready. They were prepared to make moves and make things happen. And then they were ready to make things happen to find those replacements. Obviously bringing in Sam Darnold. And then they have a plan of really building this defense the way Mike Macdonald wants it to become elite level defense that he wants. Again, with all the signings that they did to retain their own players, and Ernest Jones, a Jaron Reed, and now, adding Demarcus Lawrence, and we'll just wait to hear about what's happening with Nwosu, whether that is a release, a trade, or they have restructured a deal to free up some cap space with him. Either way, this defensive line is looking elite. We know we have great linebackers right now. We know we have some elite and high level corners. We have good safeties. So you have multiple groups on the defensive side of the ball that you would consider elite or great. And again, just a couple moves, couple draft picks could really have you looking across the entire defense and going, wow, we have an entirely elite defense. We have elite players at every level. You could have an elite player we'll have multiple elite players on the defensive line. You have an elite player at linebacker. You have an elite player at corner. You could get elite level play at safety, or you could draft elite safety, and then and then those draft picks, again, that works out just like I was talking about. Signed a couple, a Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, a Demarcus Lawrence now. 3-year deals. They can start drafting young replacements and have them ready to rotate in when it's their time. Again, just go watch the Eagles. That is exactly what they're doing. That's why they're able to have all the, you look at them, you go how in the world are they paying a quarterback, a running back, 2 wide receivers, multiple offensive linemen? Well, they can do that because they're hitting on their picks on the defensive line, on defensive backs, at linebackers. You see the positions leaving them, or players leaving them at those positions, and then they have players ready to step in, young players ready to step in on the defensive side of the ball. The Seahawks can do that. They can keep drafting to get their young defensive players ready to take over as these older ones age out. And then if Sam Darnold does hit when it's time to pay JSN, if they finally actually start paying offensive linemen, they'll be able to do all that because they'll have, built an elite defense and kept it growing with, with draft picks to keep it young and cheap. And that should be very easy. Not easy, I don't want to say, should be very possible to do. Because again, with we were excited about how we had, 5 picks in the first 100 picks, 5 picks in the first 92 picks. Well, now we're excited after the compensatory picks were released. We have 8 picks now in the first 5 rounds. So a lot of great opportunity, right? And I know I'm talking about most of the defensive side of the ball, but we have to be looking at, this might be the approach with the offensive line right now, which I'm not excited about. I'm not excited about, them looking like they might be relying heavily on, fixing the entirety of the interior line through the draft. At this point, all of the top guards and centers have signed elsewhere. Even Kevin Zeitler, just a few hours ago before I sat down to make this recording, has agreed to a 1-year deal. Again, 1-year deal, just like I said you could be getting Kevin Zeitler with. He signed a 1-year deal with the Titans. So just gotta figure out what they're doing with this offensive line. And hopefully they have a plan. Is it really, are they going to go get Gray Zabel? Are they gonna get Tate Ratledge? Are they really planning on going after, again, they have eight picks in the first 5 rounds. Are they gonna be using 4 to 5 of those picks on just not that many, but are they gonna be using up to 3 to 4 picks just on interior offensive linemen in that range of from 1st to 5th round to try to fix what's going on? That might end up being the case. And again, hopefully they can just keep making moves to keep accruing picks as they do every year, and just giving themselves more bites at the apple to get players who are eventually going to replace some of these older players who are on these 3-year deals. And I think they can do it. They should be able to do it. If John Schneider spends this money wisely, if he actually has the right people around him now with this coaching staff to make the right assessments on which offensive linemen are the linemen you should be drafting, this could very well work out. And if it does, I think we're all going to be very excited, because I don't know about you as Seahawks fans, but I know myself, I love watching the Seahawks when they have elite level play on the defensive side of the ball. I just love watching that. So looks like that's what they're building. And I don't know. Like I said, we'll still wait and see to see what's going on with the offensive side of the ball with that offensive line. All right. Let me know what you think about the Demarcus Lawrence signing. Are you excited about it? Or are you that guy's old already? He had a broken foot last year. What do you think of the Marquez Valdes-Scantling signing? Are you oh my gosh, we went from DK to Marquez, that's such a downgrade? Or are you watching him even at 30 years old and you say, wow, he still has speed, he still separates, he still gets a ton of yards after the catch. He is still a deep threat. His with his time with the Saints and Kubiak last year, he only played with him for 4 games, but in those 4 games, he averaged 22.6 yards per catch. Right? So it was either nothing, or it was usually really short, or it was a bomb for him. And again, go watch just his play with the Saints last year. I think he completely gets this system where he knows how to get to the spots. He's a very good route runner who can get to the spots he needs to get open, make the catch, and then run afterwards. That's another way that he was able to get that average so high. So let me know though what you feel about it, okay? And let me know how you're feeling about all the moves that they haven't made, and all the moves you wish they did make. And are you worried about, how worried are you about the offensive side of the ball and what they're doing there? And do you believe they're going to get something done, or do you think they are just waiting for the draft and they think they're going to take care of it entirely in draft? through the draft. And again, my worry has been is that like they think that they're just going to take care of the offensive line with this great offensive line coaching staff that they have with all the offensive line coaches that they've brought in. I hope that's not the case. Do I think Christian Haynes should still be competing for a job, and could he very well develop in year 2 and be better? You know, the problem was last year they were saying he just wasn't strong enough. Could he have been working out all of last year and all of this offseason to be getting stronger and gotten to a point where he's strong enough and gotten to into a new system in general where the athleticism will be something he can take more advantage of and will be good in the system? Sure. But yeah, again, I just hope that's not the only idea that they have. I hope there's like moves in free agency, at least one big move, one bigger move than what we had with Josh Jones, and then you can make a couple moves in the draft. That's how I feel, but let me know what you think, right? And yeah, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and just let me know what you're feeling. And until next time, go Hawks.